Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pickleball and Politics, where I combine my quest to stay out of the kitchen with my passion for politics. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be honest with you. There'll be no pickleball today. We're not going to talk about pickleball because it's Memorial Day weekend, and I want to talk about something that matters, something that's important. It is the weekend that we remember those who have died, giving their lives as the ultimate sacrifice in defending our rights and freedom. Our very way of life is because of those who gave their life defending it. And this is the weekend we remember them, Memorial Day. I was thinking about what I wanted to do to remember and to commemorate Memorial Day. And I remembered last year when my mom passed away and I was going through all of her things at her house, and I came across this box. And it was with old passports and driver's licenses, birth certificates and death certificates. And I had no idea what was in this box. And I opened it up and I was stunned to say the least. It was a Purple Heart. I knew whose Purple Heart it was, but I didn't even realize my mom had it. Never mind that it would just be in a metal box under the bed. It was her cousin's Purple Heart. Her cousin had a sister who was my mom's cousin also, of course, and they were the best of friends their whole life. And when she died, my mom inherited it as the fallen soldier's sister never had any family of her own. She never married and never had any children. So my mom inherited it, but my mom never even talked about it. She didn't say, "Oh, I have Richard's medal," or ever make any comments about it. So I was quite surprised and stunned when I stumbled upon it, literally. So I opened it up and was amazed, as you are. I have never seen one in person. And inside were two stock index cards, a lapel pin, a service ribbon, and, well, the beautiful, I hate to say, magnificent Purple Heart itself. It is just a beautiful, beautiful award, medal, for the ultimate sacrifice, one's life. And as you know, they're only given if you're wounded or die in combat in the service while serving your country. So it was quite a privilege to come across this. It really was. It's a privilege that I have it, I feel. It did have two cards inside of it, and they're both stock cards that basically say it's an honor for me to forward this decoration. And one is signed by Robert Patterson, who is the Secretary of War, and another one is the Army Service Forces in Philadelphia, the quartermasters. Roland Walsh wrote the same thing, and he was a brigadier general. Now, besides stumbling upon this and finding this in my mom's stuff, there were several other notes that were kept with it, which obviously were quite important because they kept them. And the first one is dated, I put them in order. It's dated on May 5th, 1945. And it is by the Secretary of the Army, Henry Stimson. And he says, at the request of the President of the United States, I want to inform you that your son will be receiving a Purple Heart and that you'll be receiving it shortly by this office in honor of your son who sacrificed his life for his country. It then goes on to say that there's little we can do and no words will console you. for the death of your loved one. We profoundly appreciate the greatness of your loss. For a very real sense of loss suffered by any of us in this battle for our country is a loss shared by all of us. It goes on to say, I want you to know with it goes my sincerest sympathy and the hope that time and the victory of your cause will definitely lighten the burden of your grief. Signed by Henry Stimson. What also came a few short weeks after, it is later in May, was a note from the Army chaplain. And I'll have to put my glasses on to read this. And he says, as division chaplain for the 3rd Infantry Division, to which Richard Lane was assigned at the time of his death, I'm writing to you and to offer my deepest sympathy. On the day he was killed, a number of enemy attacked the command post and Richard went out to defend it. A fragment of the enemy's shell struck him in the chest and killed him instantly. He was buried in a beautifully located and well-kept cemetery. I myself held the service. It then goes on to say that his company told me that he had excellent character and that everyone liked him, that he was a great inspiration. The end, the chaplain signs it. I assure you that I shall remember your loved one and all my masses to my dying day. As for yourself, may God grant that your courage in bearing your bereavement be as great as that of your son in the performance of his duty. And it is signed by Ralph Smith, who is the chaplain lieutenant colonel. And that's beautiful. Like I said, it's later in May 1945 that that's sent. But what struck me the most are these 2 telegrams. And one, I do not see the date on it anywhere. And it's so fragile. I don't even really want to read it to you again because it is literally being held together. They both say basically the same thing. So I'm only going to take out one, but there were 2. And this is dated. This was sent from Brooklyn, New York, June 24th, 1948. 3 years after Richard died in Europe. And it is to inform the family that the remains of the late Richard are en route to the United States, and records of this office indicate you wish the remains delivered to your funeral director. We regret it is not possible at this time to give you a definite delivery date. However, we appreciate your desire to receive remains as soon as possible, and every effort is being made to expedite delivery to your funeral director. It then goes on to say that the remains will arrive at the railroad station, and he will be requested to inform you so that you may make final funeral arrangements. That struck me so much. 3 years after he died over in the European theater, his body was being returned by the railroad. And it made me think about all of those who've received Purple Hearts. 1.7 million Americans have received this medal. Some were wounded. Most gave their life. There was also a expert infantry badge and a combat infantry badge included with his memorabilia, for lack of a better term. Memorial Day is such a solemn occasion. It's the day to honor those who've given their ultimate sacrifice, not only to our country, but to each one of us. Each one of these purple hearts to me represents my freedom. Someone cared enough to go to battle to defend it. And yet, every single day, most of us are just letting our freedom slip away from us. Every single day. Just this week, there was a report by one of our Supreme Court justices saying that what happened to us during the pandemic of lockdowns was one of the most egregious infractions of our personal liberty and freedoms in wartime ever. What they did to us during the pandemic and made us all stay in our houses, and they shut down businesses, and you couldn't do anything for weeks and days and months. Well, you could if you were certain people, because we know Gavin Newsom, he was off having lunch and dinner and fancy wine, and Nancy was getting her hair done. But no, the rest of us, we had to stay home. We had to let our hair get gray. Our businesses closed. Kids fell 2 years behind on their schooling. Our freedoms were just taken away from us in a snap of the finger, in a moment's notice. No, you must stay home. There's a virus going around. How are we honoring those who died? How? Not by letting the government take away our freedom. We have to fight every single day just to maintain our freedom of speech. I know people who are blocked all the time on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of the social media platforms. They've had their main freedom, their freedom of speech, taken from them. How are we defending freedom? Memorial Day is more than just a long weekend, the beginning of summer, and a barbecue in the backyard. It is about honoring those who died, who defended our freedom with the greatest sacrifice one could ever give, their own life. So this weekend, sure, you'll have time for a barbecue and to have a few cocktails in the backyard. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But go to your local common where there will be a Memorial Day service. Go to your war memorial in your town where there will be a Memorial Day service. Go to a veterans cemetery. Honor them. Every town has one. Every city in America will be having some type of a service for Memorial Day. Please attend. Please go. Remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Please. You know, at the end of every episode, I ask you to follow me, to give me a thumbs up, all that stuff. I don't want you to do any of that this weekend. Nope. I just want you to take an hour and go to your local town's Memorial Day service. Go to your town's veterans cemetery. Every single town in this country has one. Remember your rights. Remember you have the freedom of speech. Don't let anyone take these freedoms away from us. My cousin Richard died in Europe in World War II defending our freedoms. Honor him. Honor your great grandfathers, your great uncles, your great great uncles, depending on how old you are, your great aunts. Maybe your grandfathers. Honor them, please. I wish that no American ever has to receive a Purple Heart again. It's beautiful, but I hope no American ever has to receive one of these again. Please, this weekend, honor those who've passed. Please don't forget the fallen. The barbecue can wait. You've got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for that. Take an hour, go to the cemetery, remember those who've died. Until next week, I am doing another little episode after this that is also Memorial Day driven, and we'll have a little fun in that. But this is something I wanted to share, and I hope you all have a great Memorial Day. It's a solemn day, but it's a beautiful day too because we celebrate our freedom. And we celebrate our freedom by honoring those who passed. All right, I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining me.